So this song has been like looping through my mind over and over again. And give me 1 second. Let me make sure we have good audio. All right.
Phone call completed.
So this song has been looping through my mind over and over again. And it really came because Z and myself, if you don't know Z, she's my little sis and the moderator you see on the side. So we're having this conversation about, I don't even know what the song is called. It's like the Blessing of Abraham song. I will not try to sing it because I cannot sing. But we were talking about the part where it says, get your inheritance, and then loop the part around and around. And so on Patreon, we were going through a book called Scripture, Culture, and Agriculture. And in the book, it talked about land allotment to the children of Israel, and it was using it to parallel how we live in a society where our agriculture has been monoculture, which means that we're producing singular crops, thus hurting the entire ecosystem that thrives off of, symbiotic relationships. All right, I think we're good. I think we're back. Okay, so the word that was used was the word inheritance. And there is a Hebrew word for that word. So our Hebrew word for today, since it has been looping through my mind, is the word nahal. The root word is nahal, nun het lamet, and the word in its full conjugated form is the word nahla, and it means inheritance in its English translation. So we're going to do kind of like what we did yesterday, and I want to talk about what our inheritance is, how we have inherited curses, and then how we are supposed to unravel or allow those things to flow down and the healing to reach our future generations. If you don't know, there is a thing called epigenetic trauma. Epigenetic trauma, in its basic form, means that trauma can be passed down through DNA. You can be distant from the relationship to the people who have the trauma and still receive the effects of that trauma. There is definitely a biblical parallel that the things that happened, the curses that our forefathers committed years and years ago are affecting us today. It's a truth. There is no other logical explanation outside of us repeating these traumas that are epigenetic that have us in the position that we are in. Because Scripture also teaches that the Elohim of the universe will forgive those who turn their face to them, turn his face to him, and his anger will not go to the thousands of generations, but will stop at the third and fourth generation. So the fact that we're still reaping the traumas and the curses of our ancestors means that we have been epigenetically, it has become a part of our DNA to be disobedient and then to repeat and to be triggered into repeating the curses of our ancestors. So we get to that word, nahla, that's to do with inheritance. Now, you can positively inherit something, or you can negatively inherit something. Hebrew works in the negative and the positive. The word inheritance comes from a word picture that means for something to flow downward. So a perfect picture of that is a river. A river pools in a lake, right? Normally high up in the mountains, and it uses its flow and gravity to then flow down, and then it reaches an opening, which is the ocean. We learned that in like kindergarten, right? So if inheritance flows like a river and it starts in an area where it flows down, then the same is true for curses. Curses can be inherited. They start from a root area, right? And then they begin to flow down, and then we repeat or then recycle those things, pushing them further and further down until it becomes muddy and disgusting, as rivers do as they continue to flow. And then it opens up into this body of water called an ocean, which with its salt and the process of the water cycle it evaporates, and then it starts to process again. The ocean is a purifying source that the Father has given us to be able to draw from in this example. So the same thing is true for each of us. We are living in a time where we have, I feel like we are in this awakening like the ocean, where the stuff at the top was pure. And as it trickled down through the mountains and the rivers and the valleys and through the villages, it reached a place where it was muddied down and it was no longer effective. It had curses and traumas and all these things. And so we've been placed as the purifiers of our generation. Scripture talks about in Psalm 24 that there's a generation who will seek the Elohim of the universe, that will seek Yah, seek his face. And I believe that we are the beginning of that generation. And so because we've inherited all this stuff, we've reached this place where we've been given the tools to be purifiers. The tools are the laws, statutes, and commandments. The tools are the things that we can see, touch, taste, smell, observe. And we are allowed now to filter out the trash, filter out the traumas, filter out what has been epigenetically passed through and passed down to us, and allow the Father to do what he does with the water cycle and take the water and draw out that which is good and then move it back to the mountaintop and give what is pristine to the next generation. We have to work at, though, our inheritance. We've been given the tools, and we know that there are our children, our grandchildren, those who come in contact with power of what has been placed in us. They can be benefactors of that, but first we have to do the process of purifying. So, if epigenetic trauma is true when it comes to curses, right, to pushing something downward and passing it over and over in generations, then I propose that epigenetic healing is also a possibility. Epigenetic healing can also be inherited and can be passed down. If we take out the time to heal and purify and allow the Father to take the best and take it back to the mountaintop for our future generations and those who we've been placed in a position to influence and to help and to heal, then those things can then be passed down to them. We hear it over and over again. I don't know if we actually take it to heart that we have the ability to stop the curses and the family traumas and the dysfunction at ourselves. We have the curse, but we also have the ability to push past that with the tools we are given to be sources of life and light to our families. The conversation often comes up when you have what I consider some of us to be anomalies. Those people who come and look at the world just a little bit different. If you want to understand what and how those of us look at the world different, check out the previous video on sight, perception, and vision. Some of us are placed here to see the world differently. And everyone in our family is not given that same vision. They might have sight, they may have some perception, but they're not given that vision. And because we have been given that, it is our responsibility to cultivate it to the best of our ability so that we can continue to push our family, the area of influence that we've been given by the Father, into a place of healing and wholeness. That is where everything culminates. That is the reason why we change our diet. That is the reason why we reject falsehood. We're not doing it just to be obstinate. We're not doing it just to be contrary. We're not doing it to be proud. We're not doing it to find nationality. We're doing it to achieve wholeness because we have been given, or the waters have arrived at us polluted. And we need all of those things. We need to remove all of those things that are not true so that we can filter out the negative and then have something pristine and clean and clear for the next generation. So, as you're moving throughout your day, and as you're moving throughout life just in general, think about the hand you've been dealt, the tools you've been given, and how you will use those tools to dismantle what has been given to you. The very tools that we are using every day to build up dysfunction are the very tools that are necessary for breaking it down. When you go to an AA meeting or when you go to counseling, the first thing that a person is going to ask you to do is admit that there is a problem. Once you admit that there is a problem, you can begin to identify and look at the dysfunction in the system, and then pull apart what it is, getting to a root cause. What we are realizing in our generations is that the root cause is muddied down, cursed, infected, parasite-ridden water. And if water is life, and if water is that liquid elixir that can cure and heal all things, and the water that you have been given by the generation before you is tainted, then you start off already at a deficit. And so what I'm proposing through Nahla, or inheritance, is that we adapt a culture that's not based in just living, but that in this generation we adapt a culture that uses each and every one of us, who is going to be the bridge or the filter between our past and our ancestors and our progeneration and our future, and we filter out and hand the next generation clear, pristine water that will heal and purify and give them life, in order to start with a blank slate and start with a good foundation where they can build and be able to pass down a positive inheritance to the next generation. I hope that helps somebody. The word for the day, if you didn't catch it at the beginning, is Nahla, and it is your inheritance and your destiny. We are going to exchange the lies that we've been given for truth, filtering them through the word and the observational evidence of the Creator, and we're moving forward with assurance that as we begin to filter out our triggers and our traumas and all those things that are passed down, that we will then push epigenetic healing to the next generation. Have a great day.